everybody, it's Denise. I'm working on a project that I feel honored to do it. It's a quilt, so you can tell, all hand done, except the blocks were put together by machine. I can tell, very tight stitch, but then everything else was hand sewn on. But there are a couple of sections in here that you can see that they're just very, very weak. They're coming apart. The inner core of this is pretty much, it's just let go and it's lumpy in certain sections. So there's only so much I'm going to do to it because it is the character of this quilt that I don't want to change. But I am going to, some things that are open, I can go ahead and fill in. So I'm gonna fix this. I did one block already. I had to put on music of the era. I figured 1940s. I don't know the 1940s, but I want to become the project. If I need to sit here and get this finished, I want to kind of think back to how cool was it? What were they talking about when they put this together? How things have changed. And look, I am making an effort to not change anything on this quilt for it to stay, to have that same look. Okay, that gives me a little bit of the padding that I need. You know what I'm gonna do with this? I am going to do just a real quick stitch just to keep that flap over. Yeah, could I cut it off? I don't want to cut this off. So keep in mind, I am not one of those quilters that does all this hand stuff. I mean, I've seen quilts that are absolutely gorgeous. So I love watching people do this, but I like working with my leather and other things. So so I'm going off of, and I'm not even putting a knot in here. That's how fragile this is. But I want to stitch this thin piece onto here. I would assume that would be right. I'm waiting for my quilters to send me a comment. So I'm gonna just do a quick stitch on top, and this will be covered up, and I'm not even grabbing. I have a very, see that very, very little on the back end. You won't be able to tell. But I am just gonna sew this down, baste it by hand. Baste it, but I'm not gonna sew this. This is just gonna stay the way it is. It's gonna be covered up. Alright. Okay. That's all I want to do with that. I don't want to do anything crazy. I'm going to go back up here just to ensure it on this side. I'm keeping my finger on it when I pull. Alright. There. That'll keep it down while I'm putting the piece together. All right, let's get a thread. So what I did is I was trying to figure out what thread they had. I first thought it was a floss. You know, a floss has what, 6 pieces to it, and I figured, oh, I could use one of those. And then I looked at it again and I thought, you know what, that doesn't look right. So I resorted back to the thread that I use. I like using Gutermann. I use, all my threads are German threads. And what I used is more, it's more of a bone color. So I figured, you know what, that is gonna work, and I'm doubling it. So that way it's, you can see the definition when you go across the stitches. I'm just so glad that all I have to replace, I mean, there are a couple of spots in here where some of the pattern pieces could use a little help, but not nearly as bad as these cream colored pieces. So I'm gonna knot my end. Where's the end of my knot? Here it is. So I want to get this back to them. They are going to be giving it to their daughter. She has a new place that has more of an industrial feel to it. So I would assume that they're going to put that up somehow. Oh, if not hang it, maybe a nice... some kind of nice frame that you could lay the quilt over. I'm sure they'll figure something out, but definitely is not going to get washed. Okay, here's another thing. I'm sure at one point this here all was white. Well, yeah, 100 years ago I'm sure it was white. Or maybe an off-white, I am not sure. So I didn't have anything. I'm, you know, what kind of fabric did we have back then? I'm not sure. I wasn't born in that era. So I use cheesecloth. I use cheesecloth towels in my kitchen. I use it to wash my hands, to dry my hands, to dry my dishes. I use it when I work with my leather. I wipe my hands on it. I wipe my leather with it. I love cheese towels. Maybe it's because my ancestors used it. So that's what I resorted to. And so I started to get the color as close as I could. I started with tea bags, just black tea bags. Well, that didn't do much. It just looked, the towel looked dirty. So then I went back in and I decided to use some of my dye that I use for my wax bags. So first I went with a beige color. And the beige actually turned out to be very, very yellow. And that didn't work. So I added 2 drops of a dark brown, because I had to get rid of the yellow. So I added 2 drops of dark brown and I swooshed that around in the water and I put the cheese towel in there and kept going back and forth, squeezing it out, going back to the quilt. And the thing is, yeah, okay, when it's dry, it's going to be a little darker. So going back and forth, finally got it. I let it dry overnight. And I was going to iron it, and I thought, you know, I'm not going to iron it. So I'm sure I've got quilters out there. I don't know if you would have ironed this. I think I'm okay not ironing it because then the whole item would have to be ironed. See, here's a little one too. I'll figure that out when I get there. I don't want to take the character away from this. Definitely not changing this. So that's what I did is I got the cheesecloth to match pretty good. I think I did. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this today because I have to move on to some of my other projects, and I've got one more order that I have to finish before the weekend starts. I have a bag to make, a custom bag. It's a wax bag, so that, and she lives nearby, so I'm going to have her swing by and kind of give me an idea once I have it figured out before I sew it. But, yeah, I wanted to get this to them. See, I even have to be careful when stitching. When these needles go through, this is just so super fragile. But just think about how old this is. What? they were doing when they sewed this. They must have all been sitting around. How things have changed. And here I'm trying to keep the style and everything the way they did it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew around that, and then I'm going to go in between because they do have these stitches in between. So I did one on the other side. So I think, you know, that's going to look as good as I can get it. Let me see. Where's my other side? I did one, and I have one pinned next to it. Oh, here it is. So here, this one I'm pinning. This one I'm pinning on there. That's got a bad hole, but I'm going to attach it to the black. So this one I recreated. I put that one on there, so I think it'll be okay. I'm going to steam it just a little bit before I give it back to them. But I think what I'm going to do is, when this is done later tonight, I'm going to have them pick it up tomorrow. I'm going to put it over my bed so it's nice and flat. And then I'm going to have them come in and take a look at it and see if they can figure out what has been replaced. I mean, this is why I try to match this color with all of these, because I don't want it to jump out. I don't want it to look like, oh, it's been repaired and it's been replaced some pieces, you know, so I didn't want to do that. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm going to continue. I don't know how many more I have, but I'm guessing maybe a total of 6 or 7, and then a couple of repairs, a couple of stitches that I have to go through and follow along in the holes that she has, that she created. So I'm going to go through and look at all of these here. Like, here's some missing some stitches. Actually, this I filled, so this will be attached to this. So I'll have to make these stitches up in here. So all right, so that's what I'm doing right now. I will take pictures at the end and I'll put them up on YouTube. So anyway, happy sewing, everybody.